Good morning, buenos dias. Welcome to my magical garden. Next to me is standing a dear old friend of mine, Mescalito, San Pedrito. This Trichocereus species, numerous different Trichocereus species. This one is a Pachinoi. The ones with the four ribs are considered the most sacred because they represent los cuatro cardinales, the four directions of the cosmos. And when I was in Peru, living in Huancabamba, in Las Lagunas Sagradas y Misteriosas de las Huaringas, the rituals all involve imbibing liquid tobacco in a conch shell and praying to the four corners, four directions of the cosmos. And I can tell you though that it doesn't matter how many ribs this baby has, she works. Mescalito in Huancabamba, near Piura and Chiclayo in northern Peru. The San Pedro cactus is called achuma, and it's considered the most sacred of plants up there. Anyway, this morning I'd like to take you on a little walk in my magical forest, where we've got numerous other sacred Amazonian, not just Andean, but Amazonian species as well that are intrinsic to shamanic practice in an Aboriginal context in Amazonia and in the Cordillera de los Andes. So this is San Pedro. Behind me is another magical plant, but not related to the Amazonian or Andean Aboriginal context. This is chat, which is Ethiopian and Yemeni and Somalian stimulant. Catha edulis, or cathinine is the alkaloid there. And yeah, I don't have much of that. I just like the odd chew every now and then when I need a lift, and it's quite good for asthma as well. So let's go for a little walk, and I'll show you a couple of other magical plants and a beautiful forest at sunrise, or a little after sunrise, on an Australian winter's morning. Come along. So you just sort of... Okay, so we're on the other side of the fence now, otherwise my horses will get in here. My partner's horse crazy, and we have horses, but the horses I think would chew this one. This is Psychotria viridis, and it's a very important, one of the two parts of an admixture called Ayahuasca, or Natima in parts of Ecuador. They call it Natima, or Jahe in northwest Amazonia, where I was living for some years, working with Kofan shamans, curanderos, otherwise known as vegetalistas, ayahuasqueros, yerbateros. They've got lots of different names. But yeah, it's amazing how well it grows here. I've got lots of these all through my forest, and you combine Psychotria viridis, this one, with Banisteropsis caapi, which is the big liana that I'll show you in a minute, and you make a very potent admixture, and it's indispensable to the practice of shamanism in northwest Amazonia. And shamans use it to effect a transition to a state of non-ordinary reality in which most of the shamanic work is conducted. And shamanism is a pretty prosaic practice there. It's the realm of supernature. There's no delineation between the natural world and the supernatural world. Everything is regarded as one. And healing is typically conducted with the assumption that most illness, if not all illness or misadventure, is the result of witchcraft or malevolent sorcery. And the healing is very prosaic, as I say, in so far as it's generally about the extraction of a material pathogenic object from the body of the sick person through sucking, massaging, or blowing. So the shaman will use ayahuasca to be able to see into the body, and in that way, shamanism, there are certain sort of universal elements to shamanism. Like in Papua New Guinea, for example, the shaman is often called a glassman, or if it's a woman, a glassmeri, because they're thought to be able to see into the body of a sick person as though they were glass. And then again, illness is conceived in Papua New Guinea as resulting from sorcery or sangama. And shamanism is about removing the pathogen from the body, again, by sucking, blowing, or massaging. It's certainly not... shamanism has nothing to do with contemporary Western notions of self-discovery or these are all valid and fantastic reasons to use the magical plants, but it's nothing to do with shamanism in the traditional sense. Shamanism is a very practical, quite a mundane set of practices and beliefs about the extraction of physical malevolent sickness substance and sorcery substance from the body. It's not about self-discovery or enlightenment or anything like that. Having said that, though, a lot of shamans I've worked with in the Amazon and the Andes are increasingly employing syncretic elements to their practice. So they're accommodating a Western clientele by making it more about self-discovery and things like that. And you'll often see certain contemporary icons on their mesa or shamanic altar. Like you'll see a picture of Diego Maradona, for example, and other sports stars. You'll also see the Christ and Mother Mary, and that syncretic blend between Roman Catholicism and pre-Columbian Andean and Amazonian cosmologies and so forth. But anyway, that's Psychotria viridis. Let's go for a walk. The forest goes for a fair way. You can see we never get the sunrise here because the forest blocks it, but you can see eventually the sun starts coming through the trees, and it's quite a beautiful enchanted forest. So this is a little specimen here, and you can see the leaf structure, and I reckon that's the best way to identify it, because often when you're looking at a big liana in the forest, you can mix it up. Particularly here in northern New South Wales, there's really heaps of native lianas that it can get you into trouble in terms of identification. So many bird species in the forest. There's a whipbird. Some big specimens as well. But you can see it goes pretty vast, and it just goes on forever because the neighbour's got many hundreds of acres too. So we haven't even when our farm ends, there's just more forest. So the neighbour's got a pretty good forested stretch of earth as well. Anyway, happy sunrise. We're back at the Psychotria viridis plant. Just a word, don't mix this up with Psychotria carcinogenesis, which is a related species, but the other one has toxic berries. Psychotria viridis, the chacruna plant, as the people of northwest Amazonia call it, these berries go really bright red when they're ripe, but you can tell the difference between the two plants. See how this has got more like big floppy ears, the leaves. Psychotria carcinogenesis has got really little ones, and they don't hang down all floppy like these ones. Yeah, obviously you don't eat the berries at all, and in carcinogenesis they're actually toxic. It's just the leaves that are the significant parts of the plant in terms of making admixture preparations. Here, let me show you something as well. There's a little piece of Banistropsis capi. These are just some really little bits just off the tail end of a vine that I harvested, well, quite a while ago now. But it doesn't matter. I mean, there's even mold on them. I just never used them. They were little bits and I didn't bother smashing them up, but I will. And I could leave these for 100 years and it wouldn't matter. I'll tell you a story. The alkaloid is very stable. It used to be called telepathine, the principal alkaloid. Now it's called harmine, and the other one harmaline. But that is sort of indicative of the prejudice against the magical plants these days, that science renamed an alkaloid from telepathine to harmine. It's such a shame. The whole stigma and prejudice against the magical plants, the sacred and magical plants. But it's a very small piece. Ay carajo, cabrón, por favor. Los perros y gallos. This alkaloid is very stable, and I could leave this for 100 years and it would still be as powerful as it was the day I harvested it. Richard Spruce, the great English botanist who in the 1850s was in the Upper Volpes in the Colombian Amazon, working with Turkanawan speaking peoples, and he sent a specimen back to Kew Gardens in England, and it was lost for 100 years. And when they found it and analysed it, they found the alkaloid content to be comparable to fresh cut specimen. So it's quite amazing and quite very stable. So yeah, that's vine. Yeah, I should harvest some bigger fresh stuff and show you that, and I'll do that in a later video. But yeah, okay, so these magical plants are, as I say, indispensable to the practice of shamanism in northwest Amazonia. And there's a whole jaguar complex that I found still operative there when I was living there in the 1990s. In the Rio San Miguel with the Kafan peoples. I worked with a shaman called Taita Diomedes Diaz and his wife Ophelia. Those two were a powerhouse, a tour de force, incredible curanderos. But there's a whole jaguar complex there where people under the influence of ayahuasca transform into jaguars, but also anacondas or tapirs. It's not limited to just a jaguar complex. If you want to research more, there's some classic monographs, old ethnographies. Gerardo Rakoldomatov, for instance, The Shaman and the Jaguar, a fantastic read. A lot of these contemporary works are just new age nonsense. Have a look at some of the classic old monographs. Gerardo Rakoldomatov is a fantastic start. Cheers.